He is just an ATM with a house attached," she said to the man she called her cousin. I stood frozen in the hallway, hearing every word while pretending to be at work. I smiled politely through dinner that night while secretly calling a locksmith for I-29 a.m. in a situation that has me questioning whether I am being unreasonable or if my boundaries are being completely disregarded. My girlfriend Cassidy, 24, and I have been together for about 10 months. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and have been dating ever since. I am a senior software engineer at a tech startup in Austin, and she moved here about a year ago from a small town in East Texas to figure out her life, as she puts it. A bit of context. I bought my house about 2 years ago when our company had a good funding round and my stock options became valuable. It is nothing extravagant, but it is a nice 3-bedroom place in the North Loop area that I have put a lot of work into making my own. Cassidy has her own apartment with roommates but spends most weekends and several nights a week at my place. About 2 months ago, we had our product launch approaching at work, which meant long hours and a lot of stress. The team has been working overtime for weeks, and I have been pulling 12 14-hour days. During this time, I gave Cassidy a key to my place so she could come and go as needed. She'd sometimes bring me dinner at the office or feed my cat when I was working late. I told her to make herself at home while I was busy with the launch. I meant she could watch Netflix, raid my fridge, whatever made her comfortable when visiting. Last night, our product finally launched. It went well, and my team and I went out for celebratory drinks. When I got home around 11 p.m., exhausted but relieved, I found my house different. There were suitcases in the hallway, unfamiliar shoes by the door, food I don't eat in my fridge, and voices coming from my backyard. When I went outside, I found Cassidy lounging by the pool, which I have never really used, with her phone set up on a tripod, apparently doing some kind of social media livestream house tour. Beside her was a middle-aged woman I would never met, and a guy about our age who was grilling on my grill that I don't think I have used more than twice since buying the house. Cassidy jumped up, seemingly surprised to see me, and said, "Blake, you are home early." It was 11 p.m. I wasn't early. She quickly introduced the woman as her Aunt Marin, who needed a place to stay for a while, and the guy as her cousin Hunter, who was just passing through town. I was too shocked to say much, so I just nodded and went inside. I noticed the guest room was completely set up with Aunt Marin's belongings, and it looked like she had been there for more than just the day. The office third bedroom had Hunter's stuff in it. When I asked Cassidy about it privately, she casually mentioned that they had been staying with us for a bit while I was working long hours. "How long is a bit?" I asked. "About a month now for Aunt Marin. And Hunter's been here for 2 weeks," she replied, like it was the most normal thing in the world. A month. They had been living in my house for a month without my knowledge. I was speechless. When I finally found my words, I asked why she hadn't told me people were moving into my house. She looked confused and said, "I thought you would be cool with it. You are always saying mi casa es su casa. You can understand it is make yourself at home." I have literally never said make yourself at home. To her, I am not even remotely fluent in Spanish. I tried to explain that giving her a key for emergencies and telling her to make herself comfortable wasn't the same as inviting her family to move in, but she got upset. She said I was being unwelcoming to her family, who were going through a tough time, and that I should be more understanding since I have all this extra space anyway. I was too tired to argue, so I just went to bed, but I could barely sleep. This morning, I woke up to Hunter using my expensive coffee setup, a gift to myself after our last funding round, and acting like he lived there. Aunt Marin was cooking breakfast in my kitchen and had rearranged my cabinets. Cassidy was nowhere to be found. Apparently she went to her actual apartment to grab a few things. Am I crazy for being upset about this? I never agreed to have her family move in. I have never even met these people before yesterday. Hunter is acting like he owns the place, using my stuff without asking. I don't know anything about these people, but they know where I live, have access to my house, and are apparently planning to stay indefinitely. I want to tell Cassidy that her family needs to find other accommodations. But I am worried I am being selfish. She keeps emphasizing how her family helps each other out, and how her aunt took her in when her parents divorced. So she owes her. Part of me feels like I should be supportive of my girlfriend, but another part feels like my boundaries have been completely ignored. The whole situation feels off to me. Hunter doesn't really look like Cassidy, though. I guess cousins don't always look alike, and there is something about the way he interacts with her that seems weird. He knows where everything is in the house better than I do at this point. And why was Cassidy live streaming a tour of my house to her followers without telling me? Am I overreacting? Is it reasonable to ask them to leave? Or am I being a jerk who will not help my girlfriend's family? What would you do in this situation? Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Reading your responses made me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling my boundaries had been crossed. After getting some sleep and collecting my thoughts, I decided to have a serious conversation with Cassidy about the situation. I waited until Hunter and Aunt Maren were out of the house. They took my patio furniture to spruce up the backyard with plants from a garden center, without asking. Of course, I sat Cassidy down and calmly explained that while I care about her, I was uncomfortable having people I would never met living in my home without any discussion beforehand. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of acknowledging my concerns, she immediately became defensive. "I cannot believe you are being so selfish right now," she said. "My family needs help, and you have all this space you are not even using." I tried to explain that it wasn't about the space, but about the fact that she had made this decision unilaterally without even discussing it with me. Her response floored me. "But we did discuss it. Don't you remember when Aunt Maren got evicted from her apartment? You said it was fine if she stayed with us temporarily." I have absolutely no recollection of this conversation. None. I would remember agreeing to have someone move into my house. When I told her this, she sighed dramatically and said, "This is just like you, Blake. You are so wrapped up in your work that you don't even listen when I talk about important things." For a moment, I actually questioned my own memory. Had we had this conversation and I would completely forgotten about it? I have been working a lot. But no, I am certain I would remember agreeing to something this significant. I asked her why. If we had this conversation, she seemed surprised when I came home and found them there. Why introduce them like I had never heard of them before? She brushed this off, saying she was just being polite with formal introductions and that my reaction seemed weird, so she played along. Before I could process this twisted logic, Hunter and Aunt Maren returned with an SUV full of plants and outdoor decorations. When they came inside and sensed the tension, Aunt Maren immediately jumped in, saying, "Oh, are you two having a discussion about us staying here? Cassidy mentioned you might be feeling a little overwhelmed." She then launched into a long story about how she lost her apartment because her landlord wanted to renovate, how hard it is to find affordable housing, and how family has to stick together during hard times. She kept emphasizing how Cassidy was practically a daughter to her after raising her when her parents split up. "In our family," she said, looking pointedly at me, "we don't turn our backs on each other when times get tough." I took Cassidy in when she had nowhere to go, and now she is just returning the favor. I felt like I was being manipulated, but I also felt guilty. Was I being selfish? I have a good job, a nice house with spare rooms. Is it really such a burden to help out my girlfriend's family? But then again, why did this all happen behind my back? I tried to redirect the conversation, asking how long they planned to stay. Aunt Maren gave a vague answer about just until we get back on our feet and mentioned she was looking for work. Hunter said nothing, just scrolled through his phone looking bored, occasionally glancing up to exchange looks with Cassidy that I couldn't quite interpret. When I pressed for a more specific time frame, suggesting perhaps a week or two would be reasonable, Cassidy looked hurt. "Wow, you really don't care about my family at all, do you?" The conversation devolved from there. Cassidy accused me of being controlling about my precious house, and suggested I cared more about my things than about her. Aunt Maren kept bringing up all she had done for Cassidy over the years, implying I owed them this because of it. Hunter mostly stayed out of it, but occasionally chimed in with comments like, "Man, it is not like we are hurting anything by staying here." Eventually, I felt so cornered and confused that I agreed to a compromise they could stay for one more week while they made other arrangements. Cassidy seemed satisfied with this, though not exactly happy. Aunt Maren thanked me profusely, calling me a real gentleman for helping out family in need. After they all went outside to plant their new purchases in my yard, I sat in my kitchen feeling like I would somehow lost a battle I didn't even know I was fighting. Several things about this situation still don't add up. First and foremost, Cassidy claims we discussed her aunt moving in. Yet I have absolutely zero recollection of any such conversation. Something this significant would surely have remained in my memory. What is more puzzling is that if her aunt genuinely needed a place to stay, why wouldn't she use Cassidy's apartment instead? There seems to be no logical reason why my house specifically was the only viable option. Furthermore, Hunter's presence raises even more questions. His role in all of this remains suspiciously unclear. As he doesn't appear to be looking for work or contributing in any meaningful way, he is essentially just lounging around my home as if on vacation. Adding to these inconsistencies, it strikes me as particularly odd that Cassidy continues to maintain her own apartment if her aunt's housing situation is truly so desperate. Perhaps most troubling of all is the social media activity. The way Cassidy has been live streaming and showcasing my house as though it belongs to her makes me increasingly uncomfortable. She is essentially creating a fictional online narrative where my property is presented as her own achievement, which feels like yet another boundary being crossed without my consent. Later that evening, I checked Cassidy's Instagram and saw she has been posting photos of herself by my pool, in my kitchen, and around my house for weeks, always with captions like "Home Sweet Home" or "Loving my new place." No mention that it is not actually her house or that she has her own apartment. It is like she is creating this online persona of success that isn't reality. I also noticed something odd in the background of several photos from the past few weeks. There are glimpses of Hunter. A shoe here, an arm there. She has been carefully cropping him out, but not entirely. I don't think these were accidental photobombs. It is like she wanted to include him subtly without being obvious. When I mentioned this to her, she laughed it off, saying, "You are being paranoid, babe. Hunter's just been helping Aunt Maren get settled. But then why hide him in the photos?" I feel like I am taking crazy pills. Everyone is acting like this situation is completely normal. And I am the unreasonable one for being uncomfortable with people living in my house without my knowledge or consent. What is also bothering me is how this affects my daily life. I just finished a major product launch and was looking forward to having some downtime in my own home. But now I feel like a guest. This morning, I had to wait to use my own shower because Hunter was in there for 45 minutes. Aunt Maren commented on how much coffee I drink, implying it is excessive. Cassidy suggested I could sleep in the third bedroom if I needed to work late so I wouldn't disturb everyone. In my own house, I have started noticing other small things too. Some of my tech equipment has been moved around. My liquor cabinet is significantly emptier than I remember. My preferred spot on the couch now has Hunter's clothes and gaming equipment on it. I feel displaced in my own home. The strangest part is that Cassidy keeps referring to Hunter as her cousin, but their interactions seem off somehow. There is a familiarity there that doesn't feel familial. I caught them having an intense whispered conversation that stopped abruptly when I walked into the room. When they are watching television together, they sit closer than most cousins would. Maybe I am overthinking this, but something doesn't feel right. I decided to do some gentle probing. I asked Cassidy how she and Hunter are related. "Exactly," she said. "His mom and my mom are sisters," without hesitation. But later, when I casually asked Aunt Maren about her sister Hunter's mom, she looked momentarily confused before saying, "Oh, we are not as close as we used to be." No details, no stories, nothing you would expect from someone talking about their sister. I have given them a week to make other arrangements, but I am worried they will try to extend this indefinitely. I am also concerned about my relationship with Cassidy. Is this behavior moving people into my house without discussing it? Then making me feel selfish for objecting a red flag I shouldn't ignore? Or am I being too rigid and unaccommodating? My neighbor Dave, who I am pretty friendly with, stopped by earlier to meet the new residents, after seeing them coming and going. After they went back inside, he gave me a strange look and asked, "Everything okay, man?" I just nodded, not wanting to air my relationship issues, but it is clear even outsiders can tell something's not right here. I am going to stick to the 1-week timeline and then firmly ask them to leave. In the meantime, I am keeping an eye on the situation and trying to figure out what is really going on here. I will update again when I have more information, or after they leave, whichever comes first. Update 2. It has been 3 days since my last update, and I have discovered the truth about Hunter. Spoiler alert. He is not Cassidy's cousin. Yesterday, I was working from home. something I rarely do, but I wanted to keep an eye on the situation. Around noon, my neighbor Dave texted me asking if I could come over for a minute. When I got to his place, he looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be the bearer of bad news. "Look, man, I didn't want to get involved in your business," he started, "but I thought you should see this." He showed me several photos on his phone that he had taken from his upstairs window, which overlooks my backyard. The photos showed Cassidy and Hunter by my pool, but they definitely weren't acting like cousins. They were kissing not a familial peck, but full-on making out. In one photo, Hunter had his hand up Cassidy's shirt. Dave explained that he had noticed them being affectionate several times over the past few weeks while I was at work, and he had been debating whether to tell me. "At first I thought maybe you guys had some kind of arrangement," he said, "but after meeting you all together and seeing how they acted around you, I figured you should know." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. All the pieces started falling into place, why Cassidy seemed so invested in having Hunter stay. The weird vibe I had been picking up between them, the carefully cropped Instagram photos. This wasn't her cousin helping out family. This was her, what? Boyfriend ex? Either way, she had been lying to me this entire time. I thanked Dave for telling me and went back to my house in a daze. I needed more information before confronting anyone. While everyone was out, Cassidy had taken Aunt Marin and Hunter shopping with my credit card, I later discovered. I did something I am not proud of, but felt necessary given the circumstances. I checked Cassidy's iPad, which she often leaves at my house. Her messages with Hunter told me everything I needed to know. They have been together for years, high school sweethearts from her hometown. From what I could piece together, they never fully broke up when she moved to Austin. Their messages were full of "I miss you" and "cannot wait to see you again," going back months, long before he supposedly showed up as her cousin. There were also messages about me, Hunter asking if the tech guy suspects anything. Cassidy assuring him I am clueless and work so much he barely notices what is happening in his own house. Discussions about how much longer they could stay before I caught on. Plans for what they would do with the money they were saving by not paying rent. The most revealing messages were about Cassidy's trips to her sick grandmother over the past few months, trips I had been supportive of. Even sending care packages. Those weekends, she wasn't visiting her grandmother. She was meeting Hunter at a motel halfway between Austin and her hometown. The lies were so elaborate and casual, it was chilling. And Aunt Marin. She is Cassidy's aunt, but the eviction story was fabricated. She had been in on the plan, helping to create a pretense for Hunter to stay at my house. The messages showed she was actively encouraging Cassidy to secure her future with me, while maintaining her relationship with Hunter on the side. One message from Marin was particularly gut-wrenching. "Blake seems like a sweet guy, but he is naive. He owes it to you for all the girlfriend experience you are giving him." I felt physically ill not just from the betrayal, but from how meticulously they had calculated everything. I had always struggled with dating being awkward and work-focused. When beautiful, outgoing Cassidy showed interest, I thought I had gotten lucky. Instead, I had been targeted. Rather than confronting them immediately, I approached this like a coding problem needing a strategic solution. I documented the damning messages, then methodically secured my life, scheduling a locksmith, canceling credit cards, changing passwords, and photographing valuables. When they returned from shopping with my money, I forced myself to act normal while noticing all the intimate gestures between Cassidy and Hunter I had previously missed. Writing this from a coffee shop after meeting the locksmith, I have realized my lifelong pattern of trying to earn love through generosity only made me vulnerable to someone who saw me as an ATM with a house attached. The hardest part is that I still have feelings for her, but remembering how they called me clueless and naive strengthens my resolve. My confrontation plan is straightforward. Present the evidence, tell them to leave immediately, and remain calm and direct. Despite the pain, I am grateful to have discovered this before we had discussed her moving in permanently. Standing up for myself doesn't make me mean, it shows I have self-respect. Edit. A lot of people are suggesting elaborate revenge schemes. While I appreciate the creativity, that is not who I am. I just want them out of my house and my life so I can move forward. Final update. It has been 2 weeks since everything went down, and I am finally ready to share the final chapter of this story. First, I want to thank this community for the support, advice, and occasional tough love. Reading your comments helped me find the courage to stand up for myself in a situation where I was being taken advantage of. After posting my last update, I returned home with the new keys from the locksmith. I found all 3 of them lounging in my living room watching my television, drinking my beer, like they owned the place. Seeing them there, so comfortable in the life they had constructed at my expense, I felt a calm clarity I hadn't expected. "We need to talk," I said, remaining standing while they looked up at me with mild annoyance at being interrupted. I started by addressing Cassidy directly. "I know Hunter isn't your cousin. I know you have been together this whole time." I held up my phone, showing one of the photos Dave had taken of them by the pool. The change in the room was immediate. Hunter sat up straight, looking defensive. Aunt Marin's eyes narrowed, but it was Cassidy's reaction that was most telling instead of denial or shock. Her first response was anger. "You had someone spying on me?" she demanded, as if that was the real transgression here. "My neighbor saw you from his window and thought I should know my girlfriend was cheating on me in my own backyard," I replied, staying calm. "But that is actually not the worst part. The worst part is how you have all been lying to me and using me." I then detailed what I had learned from the messages, the fake cousin story, the fictional eviction, the fake grandmother visits, their plans to stay as long as possible. With each revelation, Aunt Marin's face grew harder. Hunter looked increasingly uncomfortable, and Cassidy cycled through expressions: anger, shame, calculation, and finally, tears. "It wasn't like that," she said, voice breaking. "I do care about you, Blake. I love Hunter too. I have always loved him, but you are so good to me, so stable, I didn't want to choose. So you decided to have both," I said, "living a comfortable life with me while keeping him on the side, and then moving him into my house without my knowledge." At this point, Aunt Marin tried to take control of the situation. "Now, Blake, I know this looks bad, but Cassidy's just a young girl trying to figure things out. We never meant to hurt you. We appreciate everything you have done for us. I am not interested in your explanations," I said, still maintaining my composure. "I want all of you out of my house today. Now, I have already changed the locks, and I have packed Cassidy's things that were here. You can take what you brought with you, but everything else stays." Their reaction was immediate and hostile. Hunter rose aggressively, claiming I couldn't evict them. Aunt Marin invoked tenant rights she didn't have, while Cassidy dissolved into tears, begging for another chance. 1 hour, I stated firmly, or I call the police. Then I retreated to my office, ignoring their protests until I eventually heard them leave, taking some of my belongings with them, a small price for my freedom. Later, Cassidy texted a long explanation about being torn between Hunter and me. Her final line was revealing. "You really are a good guy, Blake." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The next day, I reclaimed my space, deep cleaning, rearranging furniture, and purging any remnants of her presence. Dave checked in, admitting, "I was worried you had shoot the messenger, but I would have wanted someone to tell me." 2 weeks later, I have learned they have returned to their hometown. Cassidy's telling people I was controlling and didn't understand family, while I have processed my disappointment, not just in her, but in myself for ignoring red flags and trying to earn affection through generosity, a pattern rooted in my childhood. I am making changes, being more cautious with personal information, engaging with my neighborhood, and even taking up rock climbing. The most significant change, however, is internal, choosing self-respect over a dishonest relationship. Though I am not dating yet, I am optimistic. I have learned I want someone who values me for who I am, not what I provide. Most importantly, I have discovered I am stronger than I thought. If there is a lesson here, it is this: when someone shows you who they are through actions, believe them. Genuine love builds you up instead of using you up.